Welcome back, everyone, to R2Kast. I won't say what number for a second. I'm covering my face for a reason. My guest today and I are filming this in November, and I was coerced into doing Movember at work, all for a good cause. But I now look like a football, so I'm currently waiting for the beard to grow back in. So you're going to have to get used to this, or just kick off of YouTube and jump over to Spotify. But welcome back. We are at Series 2 now, so that's mad. We started a year ago this week, Series 2, Episode 1, and for that we have a very esteemed guest in Hazel Mullins. If you want to say hello there, Hazel.
Hi everyone. Hello.
It's a pleasure to have you on, Hazel. A lot of people will know you. She is famous in the farming world these days, in particular the vet world.
I don't know about that, but we try our best anyway, Wallace.
16,000 followers say otherwise. Well, not quite 16, but I say you're very close to that on Instagram. Any idea how close you are?
Oh, I've been on 15.9 for the last 2 weeks, and it's but hopefully when this is out, it will be 16.
Surely pushing 17 by then. There'll be a Christmas push.
Oh, I don't know, Abby. Every follower is precious, so it used to be a race to the 10,000, I think, and then after that, then it's just a nice kind of added bonus to be growing up in numbers. But I think it's all about the quality, isn't it? They say.
Well, that's it. We'll get into Instagram as we go along. Hazel, could you, just before we do that, could you tell us a bit about your background? Was the veterinary in the family, or where did that all sort of stem from?
So I am from a little village in the south of Ireland, in Cork, called Carricknavar, and my dad is a dairy farmer. My mum was a teacher; she's retired, and so none of my parents are vets. I had horses, greyhounds, cows, all sorts of animals growing up, and it was very much I was always out on the farm. I'm an only child as well, so I'm very proud to kind of be taking on the farm now as well and down that road. But so I went to Nottingham in 2007, and I spent 6 years studying veterinary in Nottingham University. We were the second year of entry, so we were the guinea pigs, and qualified in 2013. And came home to practice in Ireland straight away. Was in Kerry for a year and a half, which is southwest, beautiful part of the world in Killarney. And then I moved to West Cork, another beautiful part of the world. And then I went more to Cork City, and now I'm up in Kildare. So I've had 4 jobs. This is my 4th job now as a vet. So I'm one of these people that get itchy feet, and I start. I'm always kind of on the move and looking for kind of the next challenge. But I'm definitely in a job that's challenging me now at the moment, so it's great. And really enjoying it.
Good stuff. I don't mean to point out the only place you said you've been that is not a beautiful part of the world is where you are now. So I don't know.
No, Kildare is very beautiful, but I'm from Cork, so I'm always going to be biased to Cork being so beautiful. But Kildare is the home of the thoroughbreds. It's got beautiful kind of flat plains, and it has, everywhere you look there's horses, and it's stunning, beautiful.
It's funny you say that you're always on the move. I mean, for those of you that haven't heard of Hazel somehow, if you've been living under a rock, your name is Farm Vet on the Move, which I'm not going to lie, I saw the name and for a good month thought it was just a Dutch vet. I don't know why. the 2 O's move, just too much for me.
The whole moo thing just passed you by. Yeah.
Well, obviously,
it was a pun. Yeah. My friend and I made that up whilst we were sunbathing on a beach in Croatia. And my friend was saying, Hazel, what are you going to do? Like, what kind of blog? Like, you need to do something on Instagram. What are you going to call it? And she's like the queen of puns. So there was a lot of things, thought about. And Vet on the Move was decided upon. But I think then I put in my username as Hazel Mullins. So generally I just come up as Hazel Mullins. But Vet on the Move is my official Instagram username.
I mean, it shouldn't have went over my head. In fair, it's quite embarrassing that it did. I think the reason I struggle to read like Instagram names where there's no spaces, always have. I don't know if that's just me being daft, but anyway, that's.
And I think when I made this, I don't even know. Did I even know about spaces or anything? I didn't know about hashtags. I didn't know about like stories were very basic, and yeah. So it's 4 years ago now, nearly, since I've started it.
Yeah, we're a bit of an expert by now. Stories took me a while, and then reels still haven't got them.
Oh, I know.
So many things. But anyway, was there anything that happened when you were younger that you thought, vet, I want to be a vet? You know, was there like a thing you remember going down and you were like, no, this is for me?
I think, I don't know, is it cliche or not, but I think animals were such a big part of my life. And you're always said when you're writing your personal statement, don't write, oh, I want to be a vet because I love animals. But generally, I think that's just, I would very much doubt there's any vet that doesn't become a vet because of that. But I would have said my dad was a big inspiration, and I could see that he was a great stockman and he loved his animals. And then my local vet, who I've used to work for the last 4 years, Richard Lane, he took me out on placement when I was 16. And to be honest, it was always a dream. It was kind of thing, oh, she likes animals, she'd be a vet, you know? But actually, when I went out when I was 16 and saw proper practice, then I said, okay, now Hazel, you need to assert yourself in school and start working hard. And so that's pretty much like my local vet basically inspired me. And I had such a positive experience that week in transition year, it's called. It's kind of between so your junior cert and your leaving cert, or your kind of A levels and your GCSEs. I suppose there's a year where in Ireland we kind of take off that, well, not off, it's a more of a laid back year where you get to experience life really, and you'd go on work experience and community work and things like that. So yeah, it was then that was my turning point. I didn't really have a eureka moment when I was like very young, but I always kind of, because I liked animals, it was, and I like science, it was always kind of in the back of my mind that the two would go very well together. So
that school system makes a lot of sense, actually. I think, I mean, I've talked a few times about the fact that I'm not overly pro the way school is, particularly here in Scotland. It's just, if you don't know these sort of 6 or 7 subjects, you're rubbish. You know, I don't really like that idea. I like that sort of getting into industry, getting out and see what the real world's like in that sort of 4th year. It sounds good.
And it allows you to choose your subject. So I chose all sciences then, and again, the Irish system is very much, you have to do languages as well. Like the leaving cert, you have to do 6 or 7 subjects, and you can pick 3 or 4 of them, but you have to do Irish, English, and maths, and English and Irish, and a language as well. So I did French, and I am quite dyslexic, and I really struggle with languages. And yeah, that's where my downfall was in my leaving cert. But luckily, the sciences pulled me up, so it was fine. But yeah, it can be quite tough. It's a tough. I went obviously to England and Nottingham, but the Irish system can be very tough with the points, and it's very much, okay, you didn't get 600 points. That means you needed to get an A in every subject. Well, then you can't do this course. Whereas I like the way the UK do the interview and figure out who the person is and see, okay, well, look, they got a B in that subject, but they've done all this work experience. You know, they show ambition, and there's a little bit more leeway, which I think is a great system, and I think Ireland probably needs to follow that a little bit more. So.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm actually just going to ask you about Nottingham, but one quick thing I wanted to mention was, you said at the start when I asked, was there anything that sort of made you jump into veterinary? You mentioned it was cliche. Cliches are cliches for a reason. Like I've always thought that folk are like, oh, I don't want to say something because it's cliched. That they're there for a reason. Was there any specific reason you chose Nottingham, or was it just?
It chose me.
Okay, fair.
To be honest, I applied. I hadn't a clue. I was this very naive Irish girl from Cork, from a dairy farm. I'd never even heard of UCAS. I hadn't a clue what was going on. Personal statement, I had no idea. Like I'd say now, if I read back my personal statement, I don't even know what it would say. But it was just very random. I put down Nottingham. I think I put down the two Scottish, Glasgow and Edinburgh, and then I think I put down Liverpool as well, because I was looking at where the flights were. But the only thing is I didn't have biology in my leaving cert. I had physics and chemistry and ag science and accounting, but everywhere else needed, because in Dublin you only need chemistry. You don't need biology, which is kind of strange when you think about it, because obviously it's a lot of biology in veterinary. But that's why Nottingham had a 6-year course. So I did a preliminary year where I did A-level chemistry and biology plus animal handling, animal welfare. So there was 25 of us. We were the first year of its type in all of the vet schools in the UK. So we were a little bit of a project, and actually someone did a PhD following our progress from year 0 all the way through vet school, and to see, did people that maybe didn't have the right A levels, or people that maybe went and did a geography degree or a classics degree or something that was completely non-veterinary, did they still end up with good grades and finish the course at the end? So I think out of the 25 of us, at least 21 or 22 qualified as vets, and we were in a very high proportion of the firsts as well in the year. So I think the experiment worked, I think.
Sounds that way.
Yeah.
What was the difference between what you guys jumped into in 2007 compared to what was happening pre-2007?
So pre-2000, well, Nottingham, I suppose, prided itself on being a very practical year, and also it was built, as far as I know, due to the lack of vets for the foot and mouth outbreak. So it was kind of the notion was put up in the universe when that happened. And I suppose, I don't think there was probably a slight large animal focus as well, and because they had the research farm and it was in the country. But in fairness, I'd say we were, everyone that qualified, it was kind of a third of equine, small and large. So obviously you have to cover every animal under the sun, even tortoises and everything, when you were in vet school. But I think it was a very practical course. They broke it into systems. So you did repro, and then you did GI, like so gastrointestinal, then you did the heart, cardio, and then you did, in that module there, say cardio was 6 weeks, you could do 2 weeks of horse cardio, 2 weeks of large animal cardio. So I suppose, contrary to maybe a medicine degree, every species has slightly different variations and different diseases and different anatomy. And so you just got your head around the horse, and next thing you were on to the dog and cat, and it was like completely different. So it was it was a very good way to do it, because it kind of focused your mind on systems. And then we did systems first, second and third year, and then of course in our clinical years we did systems again first, fourth and fifth year. So it kind of, the structure of the whole course started at the very first day. We had ultrasound scanners in our hands, ultrasounding like dead horses' tendons. And it was just, we were, 18-year-olds, absolutely like mad to get our hands on anything cool like that. So it was a great way to keep our enthusiasm up, and it was good. And then a lot of vet schools have followed suit since, in that model. Yeah.
God, I just can't think what would go through my mind to make me want to deal with tendons and such like that. Oh, I'm not a vet. I'm not a vet for 2 reasons. I would not have been nearly smart enough into that stuff. Oh my God, no.
It's all about the gore. It's great.
No,
but I cannot watch Grey's Anatomy. Like I have to look away at Grey's Anatomy. Like I cannot handle human stuff. And I think there was one day I was at a wedding and someone dislocated their knee, and they were like, "Oh, Hazel, can you come and help?" I was like, no. I'll be on the floor if I go near that poor man. Like, not a hope. Please ask a professional.
Sounds like a good wedding that we'd dislocated.
Oh, it was a great wedding. Yeah, it was a great wedding.
You'd mentioned sort of you were from a dairy farm and you're a large animal vet. Is that with a focus on cattle, Hazel, or is there sheep and what else?
Yeah, I suppose my main interest is dairy cows, and that's kind of because where I live is just fields of black and whites. But look, there is beef cattle there as well, and they're all there's just different management systems between the two, but they're obviously the same animal. But it's yeah, it's good to I like having a focus and maybe something that I particularly like, and I'll go to dairy talks and things like that. And I suppose being from a dairy farm as well, it probably helps. But yeah, no, I've moved up the country now, and there's a lot more sheep. So all of a sudden, I'm now listening to sheep webinars and looking back at my sheep notes. And yeah, it's good. It's good. I was listening to Carol. They did a unit thing the other day on a live, and I was like, oh my god, I need all the sheep knowledge. Just keep coming
That's
with
why
the
you've
sheep
got away
knowledge.
from that.
Yeah, I was like, I have no idea about breeds and things like that. I know like their physiology and their worming and all that, but it's the little bits that when you're not used to dealing with sheep farmers that you need to kind of brush up on. And I think it's okay for as a vet that you can kind of say, okay, I haven't dealt with this in a long time, or I need to brush up on my knowledge of general sheep farming. And that's like we can't be all things to everyone, and I think you have to identify where you need to focus your attention. But yeah, sheep farming, sheep, and then I did a little bit of horses as well. I used to be really into my like equine work, and in college I'd say I was 50-50 whether I'd go and be an equine vet or a cow vet. And I actually went into my first practice, and it was very much, there was everything. Like I'd say a third small animals, a third horses, and a third cows. And I loved the horses, but I just felt for me, I don't know, the equine vets are absolute heroes. Like they put themselves in so much danger every day. And like with cow vet, yeah, it's dangerous. And I've had injuries, and my friends have had injuries and everything, but you have a crush, and generally you can kind of stall them up and things, but a lot of the time you just walk into a stable with a yearling and but yeah, I big up to the equine vets, because yeah, they're heroes. They put their life at risk every day. But no, I just, yeah, I think the cows just kind of called me, and I followed, and I love them, and I love, yeah, I just get such a kick. I don't find learning, going to a talk or a conference about cows work. I
Yeah.
really, really enjoy it. Yeah.
Hopefully, when you say you get a kick, you mean figuratively. Not actually.
No, no, not not
Sure, you
not,
get them
not
too, though.
literally. No, I was sitting next to the cattle conference we had in Ireland there, in October. There was we did kind of the theme was kind of One Health. So we had a doctor, human doctor speak, then we had a vet speak, and then we had maybe a little practical thing. So there was a session on C-sections. And of
Okay.
course, I got put with the job of chairing this C-section thing. So there was a lovely Egyptian doctor that works in Ireland in Waterford. And he and I sat down for dinner the night before over a few glasses of wine, and we were chatting, and it was amazing, because he had absolutely no idea what we did every day on farm, doing sections on cows that are standing and with local, and and he was like, oh, have good firm grip now in your scalpel. And I said, yeah, but the cow could kick you, and then all that firm grip is gone, and next thing your straight incision has a big Y in it because your hand is gone. And he was like, really? Oh my god. And it was actually really refreshing that he kind of identified that there was a lot of challenges, and infection challenges as well. He said, how do they not die? Because they're, how clean is a surgery inside in any maternity ward? And he said, the wound breakdown and everything. He said, yeah, I just said cows are amazing. They just get on with things, and they survive
Well, yeah.
most of the time. Most of the time.
Well, yes, exactly. Now you're
Yeah,
moving into sheep, you might find some different results there, but
that's
um,
that's it. Yeah.
uh, just a bit of a sort of random rabbit hole to go down. But you mentioned you'd sort of been injured. Has there been any serious injuries with it? I mean,
Mm.
touch wood, no more, but
Oh, touch wood. Yeah, I broke a finger. So I broke
okay.
my index finger on my right hand. So if I ever do get engaged, it's not it's the opposite hand, so it's okay. But it never went back to its proper size. So yeah, my nail artist sometimes comments on the big finger. So yeah, that was squished or squashed, I suppose. Squished isn't the word, but it was squashed by imagine a big metal bar and a cow, you know, in a feed barrier, and I put my hand. Don't know why. I was kind of reading her TB test or whatever. Anyway, I put my hand near her head and she pulled me back, and it's her top of her head, which is pure like bone mass, and then against the bar and just in smithereens the top of my finger. But luckily it was above the joint, and I fainted. The farmer was bringing me like 7-Up. There was 2 jeeps arrived into the farm. My 2 bosses. One of them drove me up to Cork, and I had to stop on the way up, and like, oh God. And then my mum came in and just said, oh, don't mind her, she's just a drama queen. And and then I was like, oh, thanks, Mom. And yeah, no, it was very painful. And it was I'll always remember the 6th of February 2015. So if anyone realizes the 5th of February is a busy time of year for vets. Yes. So I was out of work. I didn't touch another large animal call for, I'd say, 7 weeks. So I'm sure my bosses were not best pleased. But yeah, it was annoying. And I had just left a calving. I untwisted a uterus in a cow, and I had just left that because I said, oh look, I'll go and read my tests and I'll come back to her and maybe she'll have calved in the meantime. So then that farmer rang me on the way up to the hospital saying that the cow had calved, and I was like, I know, thanks so much, but I'm on the way to hospital. Yeah, but look, I've had stitches in my head, I've had a burst lip, the stitches in my head were very scary actually, because I think if a gate opened and I fell backwards onto a concrete cubicle slab, and like I often think, God, if I just fell a different way or something, you know, life is such in the balance, isn't it? And sometimes, look, it wasn't my time to go. And I got like 5 or 6 stitches in my head, and I remember being concussed, and I was only a young vet at the time. I was just maybe 3 or 4 months out. Remember I drove home, like, what? Because I didn't want anyone thinking that I was, you know, weak, or I just, you know, I had 5 stitches in my head. Definitely, like, I didn't pass out, but I heard the ringing, you know, that ring. I don't know if anyone ever had a bang in the head, you get that ringing noise. And I don't think I mentioned that. And then I don't think the doctor knew I drove home either. But anyway, I was very silly. So any young vets out there, please, 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 when you get concussed, don't get in the car. Just get someone to collect you, and don't be a hero. You know, it's not worth it.
Bravado is the most dangerous thing, isn't it? I mean, so many folk do daft shit, and like maybe not even daft stuff. It goes wrong, and then they're like, right, I've got to pretend I'm fine, and badge of honors. Vets are so bad for badge of honors. Oh, how many hours have you worked in a row? Oh, I've worked this many nights in a row. And yeah, we're terrible, but things are changing. Like, we are realizing that that's just not sustainable now. And you know, but it is. I've been guilty of it as well, wearing that badge of honor and being like, oh sure, I've only had 2 hours sleep and I've calved how many cows, and but actually my body was falling apart, you know, so it's not good. Yeah, I think we've all tried to win the most hours worked in a week battle, and it's daft. It's absolutely daft. I mean, you said about 2 hours sleep. That's roughly how much I get normally, but that's not because I'm working the rest. It's just, you know, but yeah, it's such a weird flex that we have to push that. But anyway, you mentioned there, and was it untwist a uterus? Was that the term you said? If I got it wrong.
Untwist a uterus. Yeah.
Is that normal? Is that a strange call? Have you got anything that stands out as weird? You know,
I would say it's a common enough call. It wouldn't be an everyday call. You probably, maybe in a spring, you might get 4 or 5. It depends, and it's basically when the calf is in the uterus, and for whatever reason, people say like cows that are bullied and they're pucked, or you know, if they're running around like lunatics, but then there's no real actual, I don't know if anyone actually came up with a proper why it happens, but it happens, and there's different degrees. Like, so it could be like 180 degree twist, it could be 360, it could be 720. So obviously if it's set like 360, you can't even grab a leg or anything. It's just completely closed. But most, like a lot of them, the 270s and things like that, you can get a leg, or you can grab with a hold of the head, and usually you can just untwist them. But you need to kind of I suppose anchor yourself to something so you can untwist. Yeah, but there's a thing called a gin stick, which is a tool that's been developed. I don't know how long it's been out. Definitely in the last maybe less than 10 years anyway. And it's a stick basically that you have ropes on and you tie onto the legs, but you have to be able to get to the legs to use it. And then you twist the stick from outside, so it helps the shoulders. So yeah, my shoulders are not. I spend a lot of money on physios for my shoulders from twisted uteruses. Yeah, so they're not the nicest of calls, but it's great when you untwist it. And but sometimes you can spend an hour untwisting it, and then the cow doesn't ever open up properly, and you have to do a section anyway, and that's soul destroying. But as long as you get your live calf, that's the best feeling in the world. Absolute best feeling in the world. Yeah.
Yeah, live calf out, a healthy mother. It's good feeling.
Yeah. But they generally just might have a tail out, and like they might have their tail up, and you won't see any progression. And they might be straining, and you'll say, "Oh, that cow should have calved hours ago." And then you put your hand in, and you'll see that there's the cervix is twisted, the uterus is twisted. Yes. So, there's loads of. I don't know. You asked me maybe my most unusual call. I don't know. Like I had a calf that was stomach tubed. It's colostrum, and the stomach tube was. I'd say it must have been from, I don't know, 1920. I'd say the poor tube fell apart in as the calf was like, in the calf, and the farmer took away the bottle, and the tube was missing. The tube was in the calf, and the calf was only a day old, and I had to do a surgery to remove the tube from the stomach. So that was good, and the calf lived, and it was brilliant. Yeah. It was one of my
do you know what's funny? I was aware of that one because when I originally got in touch with you, I sort of Googled you, and that was in another article somewhere.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Pardon my lack of biological knowledge here, because I got kicked out of standard grade biology for a reason. But how did that surgery go? Because I'm right in saying that the sort of the rumen hasn't fully developed in a calf at a day old. What are you actually working with?
Yeah, it was the very early rumen basically. So it was so thin. It didn't have all its kind of papillae and all this, obviously it was going to develop that later on. So yeah, it was like operating maybe on an abomasum, which is the other stomach. It was very thin. So yeah, it was interesting. I'd never done it before, and it was kind of like, oh sure, we'll try it and we'll see. But luckily, because it's I suppose it was a baby calf, and it had no kind of ingesta and things in it. So like when I opened it up, there wasn't a lot of risk of contamination and things. So that's probably played a part, to help the surgery. So it was an interesting one. Yeah. And then we took it out, and I was like, here it
is. Hopefully they didn't use it again.
No,
they've used it for 80 years.
No. But I don't know. Like I think I always say that we should always have a diary with us, and properly write down like our interesting cases and our funny stories, and life just takes over sometimes, and you're just trying to get on to the next call, and trying to think back on. There's probably lots of different things that I've done that are a bit out there, but sometimes if it was dark and late at night and in the middle of spring, sometimes you just forget them.
Yeah, exactly. I assume are you aware of Kaz, Vet Kaz? Came across him?
Yes, yeah, I have.
I think he does that. I think.
Writes down all his things.
Yeah. I think so.
Yeah, it's a good thing to do.
Yeah, follow the podcast because we'll be having one soon enough.
Very good.
I think he does. But
and he has all his videos and everything. He's brilliant.
Yeah. No, they're really good. Does a lot of sort of promoting British farming as well, and sort of that sort of thing. So it's good. Do you have? Actually, no. One more question before that. I'm the sort of excited interviewer asking what the most random thing is that happened. But what's the most common thing you're going out to? What's a thing that you're almost doing every week or anything like that?
Common thing. I suppose it depends on the time. So I would work in a very seasonal calving pattern block. So we're very, so most common thing in spring would probably be E. coli mastitis cases or milk fever cases. We still get called quite a few milk fevers in Ireland. I know in the UK it's maybe a little bit ahead that you don't get called as many, but calvings, yeah, generally like sick cows after calving is kind of the main, cows after calving, their immunities are down, they're open for infection, they're open for metabolic disease, and that's kind of our bread and butter of, our firefighting thing. But look, I think veterinary is changing as well, that, it is going to much more preventative now, and all these firefighting calls, look, there'll always be the calls for the sick animals and the vet that's going to treat the sick animals. But I think vets nowadays as well are big into, the herd health and vaccinating and just looking at the farm as a whole and trying to prevent those diseases happening. So those metabolic diseases are all preventative. So if we can stop them, then it's probably more beneficial to everyone, but gets us less out of the bed and also better for the health of the animal as well.
In just about every situation, it's better than a cure, though, isn't it? I mean, there's very few.
Exactly. Yeah.
No,
that's where veterinary is. That's where large animal veterinary is going, and it's been heading that way for the last 10 years, which is great.
Is that just large animal veterinary, or is small also moving in that direction?
I suppose small is always going to be your. I think small is more your, like, obviously you've got your vaccines and all that as well in your small animals, but I think there's a lot more, dogs and cats get a lot more diseases, like cancers and lumps and bumps, and there's just a lot of things in the small animals isn't preventative, obviously with weight, keeping your dog healthy and a good weight and all that kind of thing, but they're prone to arthritis, they live longer as well and all that, and then it's a totally a different field, I think. But actually with cows, because they're like little furnaces and they're taking in so much energy and producing product, and I think it's a lot more, they're like a little there's always a good graphic of the iceberg, and so what you see on the surface and then what you see on below, and what's actually happening below the surface in a cow is absolutely incredible. All the different mechanisms and science and everything, and any little tweak in that between a mineral imbalance or an enzyme imbalance, and you're gone. And then that's very much brought back to nutrition and all the other health things that come with a cow. So I think that's why I love it, because it's so science-based.
Yeah. And I assume, there'll be farmers out there that sort of malnourished, not necessarily in the form of over or under, just one of, but for the most part, they'll be consulting and that sort of thing. But I assume with pet owners, that'll be a more common thing, just because you're not looking at it from a science perspective, you're just having a pet and maybe getting it wrong because you don't know. But that's like a glaring assumption, but I'm just guessing.
I actually, I hats off to the equine vets, but hats off to the mixed vets as well, because they are, they have so much knowledge on everything, and it's so hard. Like they're geniuses, the people that can go from taking a lump off a dog and diagnosing diabetes in a dog out to doing a section, and back then maybe to do, I don't know, a colic in a horse, and it's they're incredible. Yeah.
I'm pretty certain all vets are pretty clever, but yes, it sounds like you're right. There's a lot.
I don't know.
Do you, as a vet, sort of have a particular focus? Now, you're saying you're sort of mainly aiming at dairy cattle, for example, now going a bit more into sheep, but do you have a particular thing, like something comes up in the vet practice and they're like, oh, that's Hazel's thing? Is that a thing or not really?
Yeah, well, I would have said calf health is kind of my thing.
Okay.
I love anything to do with calves. So I think if you get the calves right, then you get the rest of the system. It's you're setting yourself up for success, really. So calf health would be one thing. I love surgery as well. Like any unusual surgeries, I love to get my hands on and try. And I just love improving. Like I loved talking to that doctor at the conference because he was saying, "Oh, why do you use this suture material? And why don't you use this scrub to clean the skin?" And I was just fascinated. And I've looked up things now that he said, trying to improve my surgical technique. And yeah, but no, I think I suppose in the dairy world, you've got repro, you've got mastitis, you've kind of got all these kind of areas that you can go. But I do think that calf health is kind of where I love anything to do with calf health. Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, that was what I was wondering, and the sort of the talking to doctor, like you said there, like I mean, no, I'm not out there talking to doctors because it's not what I do. But when you're talking to people sort of in similar industries to yourself, but not the exact same, it's brilliant what you can pick up from different folk. I want to jump onto Instagram, and I'm going to. I've just got one very random question. I don't know if you've listened
Go
to
for
anyone,
it.
but this happens quite often. You mentioned at the start you were from a farm, but you've also sort of always been involved in greyhounds.
Yeah.
I'd quite like to ask you about the greyhound veterinary side as well. But my question at the minute is, what do you think on greyhound racing?
I think greyhound racing has come on leaps and bounds in the last couple of years. And I suppose the welfare side of it has absolutely improved, especially in Ireland. There's been a lot of work put into the rehoming side of it. I think there was a post there the other day. In the last 3 years, there's 3,700 Irish racing greyhounds rehomed through the IGB, which is the Irish Greyhound industry. So look, there's always bad apples and good apples. I would hopefully consider myself a good apple in the greyhound world. We give our dogs. We have retired greyhounds on the farm. They're all pet names. They all have their kennels. They're all walked. A couple of they're fed better than myself. They're absolutely, like, to be honest, they're like they are like they're racing, but they're also our pets as well, really. And it's yeah. So look, my dad has been a greyhound trainer basically all his life. My granddad had greyhounds as well, and yeah, it's just been in the family, and we're very proud of my heritage of greyhound racing as well. And look, it's been a tough couple of years to try and defend, but I'm very glad that a lot of work has gone in. And I would, if anyone ever wants to discover what it's like, just go to a track, talk to a trainer. I remember I did my thesis, or my, I suppose, dissertation, yeah, on greyhounds and ultrasounding to see about they had this kind of a muscle that used to bleed spontaneously, and I wanted to look into it and look into sudden deaths and things like that. So yeah, I went around to greyhound train, and they were just so welcoming, and they just welcomed me in, and yeah, I just think that it's improving every day, and I love my greyhounds, and they're, yeah, it's just a big part of my life, I suppose, all growing up.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. It's a positive answer, because I don't really know much about the sort of welfare sides of horse and greyhound racing. I mean, I had a fearful addiction to gambling at one point that was based on greyhounds, but
Yeah.
I don't actually know much about it on the ground, so that's interesting to hear.
Yeah.
On to sort of the reason I originally got in touch with you, Hazel, and the reason I'm aware of, and a lot of you guys listening probably are aware of, Hazel. Instagram, big part of your life now, I'm sure. Farm vet on the move. Where did the idea come from originally? And you've said where the sort of name came from, but what's the sort of movement been from day one to now?
I suppose I wanted to show what. Basically, started off wanting to show my friends, and I always tell the story because I did. I set up back in the day in Snapchat. I set up a group of my friends who were all urban living, basically very little experience with rural life and farming, and because I went to school in Cork City, so I had a lot of friends from the city. So I wanted to show, they were always said, like, Hazel, what do you mean by twisted uterus? Or what do you mean by a prolapse? Or, and I said, okay, I was like, look, guys, I'll send photographs. They might be a bit gory, but like, you can just tap on and you don't have to see them. So and I used to send, like, when I was going out at 4 a.m. or whatever, and I was like, morning guys, just here with my calf, and and then they said that I should really make a blog or something, and Instagram was just kind of starting to really take off on that kind of blog kind of world, and so I kind of contemplated doing kind of a website blog, and then I said, no, look, okay, I saw a few people on Instagram, like other vets, like Jared the vet, and there was a hijabi vet as well in America, and I followed her, and the calf vet as well. And I just wanted to probably give my own take on it as an Irish female large animal vet working in Cork, and just kind of make people aware of what we do every day, and also show that there's a person behind the vet coming in as well, and my interests. So my page is my personal page and my kind of, I suppose, professional page, and a lot of my things would cross over. So I don't know, sometimes you could see me shopping, or sometimes you could see me at a race meeting or something, and it's just me, and that's kind of what I put out there. And then people just started tagging me in things and following me, and it just went. Then I started getting a few gigs, like trying, takeovers with national newspapers and things like this. And yeah, it was fantastic. And it's just been a bit of a whirlwind. I never expected to be where I am now with it. And I'm very proud of where I am now. And I've worked very hard, and it's getting the energy to keep it consistent. And it's sometimes you lack that energy, or you might get a comment that just sets you back, and you're like, oh. But then you have to be quite thick-skinned, and I don't know if I'm the most thick-skinned person in the world. I'm quite sensitive, so it does take me maybe a couple of days to come back from. I don't get too many bad comments now at all, and I think that's why they hit me so badly when I maybe get one. And sometimes just people get the wrong end of the stick, or they, I don't get I get more things for maybe ads and gifteds and things like that, that, oh, like, you just want this free thing or something. And and I actually, you get offered quite a bit of things, and it's lovely. And I think at the start, I was so taken back by people wanting to give me, I was like, oh my God, like, yeah, no bother, I'll put it on my Instagram. But actually, when you have to step back now and kind of think, okay, am I going to do this product justice? Does it fit into what I am as a brand, and who I am, and is it completely off the wall? Like me getting a gifted of an air fryer or something wouldn't really associate with my farm vetting and my life on the farm and things like that. So it's a tough one, because I think you have to have a balance between educational posts, but then you're also getting opportunities to work with companies, and it's a balance finding that. And it's only in the last year, or maybe year and a half, that's kind of become a bit of a change in my page, because I suppose it's nice to I got Fairfax and Favor boots the other day. Oh my God, I screamed down the house. Like, I messaged all my friends. It's like, guys, I've done it. I've reached my absolute peak now. This is it. And then I just put so much pressure on myself then to actually take a nice photograph with these boots on, that I just put it off and off and off, because I could not. I was like, oh God, no, this photograph, this just doesn't do it justice. No, can't. And then I don't have one of these. I don't even have a tripod. I need to get a tripod. I'm such an absolute basic Instagrammer. Like, I need to get a tripod. I need to get an Instagram boyfriend that wants to take photographs, that I can just be like, because my boyfriend is allergic. Like, anytime I say, will you just take a photograph of me here with Betty, my dog? And he's like, oh, no. Or he will, or it's like, that's enough now, come on. So yeah, it's a tough old ask to get those photographs.
I would just like to say, Hazel, the R2Kast is not a dating site. You're in the wrong place here, looking for an Instagram boyfriend.
No. I do have a boyfriend, so no, he's great.
No. Do you know, it's probably actually quite a good thing. I think sort of people whose lives are not, and I'm not going to say dictated, that's the wrong word, but are dependent somewhat on social media, and now yours to a point is because you've got a following there that you sort of get to keep up with. It's probably good to have that detachment. I think a lot of people struggle with not getting that detachment.
Yeah. I was very bad when I first met Jonathan. He couldn't get over how much I was on the phone because I lived at home with my mum and dad, and they were off watching Corrie, and I just had so much time to. But actually, look, I look back, and that was a great time for me to build my following, and that was a really good. That was kind of when I was maybe at like 3,000 or 4,000, and my whole life was consumed with putting up stories and posts, and I just put so much pressure on myself. But now I do have to step back a bit, and I'm probably not as active as I used to be on Instagram, but I try my best, and I still have made all my wonderful friends, and it's a real community of ag people on Insta. So it's fantastic to be part of that community as well, and the vet community. So I'm kind of part of the two, which is brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm funnily enough not part of the vet community, but the ag community. I mean, I'm relatively small still on Instagram, but it's great. There's such a supporting vibe there. Like, it's class. I love it.
Yeah, it's great.
We've all, well, that's not true. A lot of us have been put in magazines and newspapers and stuff for this online stuff that a lot of us do. But very few of us have been in the front cover of a magazine. Now, you along with was it Louise Crowley, Alice Hodges, Sophie Bell. We're on the front of the Independent Weekend magazine.
It was, yeah.
What tell us about that?
That was mad. Like, even like, so it was Alice actually. So Alice got approached, and Alice was asked, to kind of gather us up and things. So then we went and we did the photo shoot, which was just the funniest thing. There was a smoke machine inside in the parlor, and Paddy, the photographer, was like, "Oh yeah, I'm just gonna get the smoke machine." And I was like, "Yeah, funny." Next thing, full on smoke machine inside the parlor, and I was like, and then he was like, "Okay, Hazel, like, okay, guys, you're going for like smoldering, like no messing, boss women, look, and then I was the only one that in the first kind of shoot, like in the first one or two takes, that I was the only one that was like, okay, let's look serious now, Hazel. And then he goes to me, Hazel, are you at a funeral or something? Like, what's, and I was like, you asked me to be serious. And then he said, yeah, everyone else is smiling. And I was like, oh my God. So yeah, I'd say the first couple of photographs were just hilarious, but I know he's very good. And actually it was it was an eye-opener to like how difficult these photo shoots are, and for him to get these shots as well. It took nearly, I think we were on farm for nearly 3.5 hours taking photographs, and it was great crack because we went for lunch beforehand, and that was one of the best things, just meeting the girls, getting to sit down. And like, I had never met Sophie or Louise in person because of, I suppose, COVID and everything just never happened. And yeah, they're just fab. And yeah, and then it came out, and like, it was all very, like, it was 10 days between our interview, our photograph, and the front cover, and it was just madness. And yeah, the phone was lighting up. My mum had bought like every copy in the shop, I think. I'm here in the practice now in the moment. There's a copy inside in the staff room. When I go home, there's two on the like, this is nearly a month ago now as well, this happened. But you know what? I was very privileged, very, very honored. And I look back at it as like a chance of a lifetime to do something like that, and to represent my story, and to tell about, I suppose, women in agriculture, and how we were all very different as well. We all had very kind of different stories, and it was nice that we weren't all the same. But yeah, it was cool. Picking an outfit, that was difficult. Like, we were all going, what are you wearing? What are you wearing? So yeah.
Only the Fairfax and Favour boots were there before, eh?
Oh, well, no, we were properly in wellies. Like, we were in the, like, this, we were on Louise's farm, and it was properly working farm. So no, the Fairfax and Favour boots would not have been ideal. No, I've only worn them about 3 times because they're literally like they're in their dust bags and everything. They're just precious.
It's funny, you know. Like, I mean, I am the most unfashionable person on this earth. Dreadful. Like, it's to a point of no return. Really, it's bad. But my ex-girlfriend was a big fan of Fear Factor and Favourite, and she was like, I really want these boots, really want these boots. And she ended up getting a Spanish boot company. They're gorgeous. These purple boots, absolutely beautiful. And honestly, 3 years on, I have never seen her in them. Like, not once. Like, they just sit like this plaque in this box,
Yeah.
you know.
No, us women can be unusual sometimes with our possessions that we've spent a lot of money on. Yeah, we they're so nice that you can't wear them.
Yeah, exactly. In fairness, I get it. I do get it. It's like us with tech stuff, isn't it? You know. Anyway. You mentioned that it was really good to sort of promote the women in agriculture thing, and also earlier on you mentioned that it was your sort of Instagram was quite popular because it was a female in the veterinary industry. Is that something that you've ever felt to be an issue, or is it's a male dominant industry, largely veterinary, isn't it, or not really?
Well, it used to be historically.
Okay.
But I would say that there is so in my year in Nottingham there was 20 boys and 80 girls.
Okay.
So that was good crack. And the boys had the pick of us, you know. They were doing well. And it's definitely, I would say there's a lot more, like when I go to conferences now, even since I qualified 8 years ago, I'd say it's 50-50 now, women and men inside in the audience for a cattle conference. And I would say that it's definitely, like, I'm definitely not unique. Like, there's so many more like large animal vets, and even like, you know, there's Sophie Harding and Miranda, and there's, you know, Lucy Vet, cow vet as well on Instagram. And, you know, there's a lot, like, they're only, you know, we're just the girls on Instagram that are cow vets, but there is a lot of female farm vets out there. And to be honest, I've been very, very lucky. Look, you're always going to get the 1 or 2 farmers that don't want you because, you know, they don't think you're strong enough, or, you know, they don't want you. And sometimes it's out of a good place as well. They don't want you to get hurt. And they're maybe more traditional in their views, and they just don't want maybe like castrating, bulls or something like that. They'd rather that, you know, they wouldn't want us to get hurt. And look, I can see that. And sometimes you just have to explain to them that, look, I'll be fine, and I've done this so many times before. But then it is annoying then when you get farmers that just point blankly, you know, not because, you know, calvings can be one of the things that, is any of the lads around? And you're like, no, they're not around. But I've calved umpteen cows, like, you know. And it is funny when especially maybe in my first kind of few jobs, that they'd have the buckets of water ready for the section, and next thing you'd calve it normally, and they'd be like, yeah, we just had everything ready because we just thought that you mightn't be able to get it out the back, but fair play to you did it. And I'm like, yeah. And look, you could take that and kind of turn it into, well, how dare you, you know, I suppose, underestimate me. But I just take it, I just laugh at it. I just be like, oh yeah, I used to be like, tell your friends.
Tell your friends, that's a good one.
Tell your friends, tell everyone, and, you know, spread the word that the female vets are just as good. And look, obviously I've had to call for help with sections. I've always say this. Yes. I've had to call with help with sections. My male colleagues who you know, might have had 20 years experience have called me on occasions to help them with sections. There is absolutely no shame in calling for help. There's no shame in saying, look, I don't know that, but I'll need to research it. I'll get back to you in the morning. And, you know, there's no shame in saying, oh, well, look, I think my boss saw one of these a couple of months back. I'm just going to ring him or her and check. And I just think it is communication is like veterinary communication is key. And it's about, you know, knowing your boundaries, knowing when you need help, but also believing in yourself as well, that, yeah, okay, they have the buckets there, but I think I can get this out the back. And yeah.
Yeah, challenge almost.
Yeah, challenge. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, actually, just one more question, Hazel. How many people are at your practice? How many folk work there?
So I've just changed up. My previous practice there was there was 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 vets, I'd say. Five.
Okay.
There was 6 full-time large animal vets. Well, not full-time. They did a bit of small, but some of them were full-time. And then so they were mixed vets, say, and then there was 4 full-time small animal vets. Yeah. So now I'm in a corporate veterinary practice. So now there's, I think, so I mentor vets now. So I'm a clinical director now. So I do a lot of mentoring of young vets and kind of overall running of kind of the large animal practice side of things. So now there's like, I think, 9 large animal vets, and there's, I don't know, there could be 10 small animal vets. There's a lot. But no, it's good to be in a big team. I think that's key, to have a team and to make the most, identify strengths and identify areas of interest, and trying to get that team to work as well as possible. And also the rota is really important as well, and it gives you time off, and it gives you time to decompress and go for a bit of a holiday or just have a weekend off and whatnot. So yeah, it's important.
As we said earlier, that stuff's very important. But it's been a great first episode. Really enjoyed that. I've learned a lot about veterinary. Really enjoyed it. So thank you very much for that.
You're welcome, and thank you, Wallace.
Whether you listen or not, Hazel, there's 2 questions at the end of every single podcast I ask everyone. First off is, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And second off, if you had any tips for anyone coming into the industry, and now in your position, feel free for that to be the vet industry, and also sort of posting online about your career. What would they be?
Okay, where will I be in 5 years' time? Well, I'm 32 now, so that's 37. So I'll be at the wrong end of the 30s. But yeah, I definitely will be a vet. Like, I'll be a vet my whole life. That's like it. I probably will be farming a little bit more. I would like to kind of continue in a similar role to what I'm in now, in the leadership and management side of things, and the herd health, really focusing in on that, and I'm nearly have my certificate done in Edinburgh University. Actually, I forgot to say that, and I've 1 module left, so I have my certificate, and who knows, I might keep it going and make that a master's. But yeah, look, just to be happy, have my dogs, have my cows, maybe a robot. Maybe we might look into that, maybe, and see. I don't know yet. We'll see. Pipe dream, but I think pipe dreams are good. It's good to have goals and it's good to have dreams. But I think, look, I used to be very much focusing on, I know I'm wambling on now, but I used to be very much focusing on long-term goals, but I have shortened those, and I kind of even have day-to-day goals or week-to-week goals, and yeah, to be happy and have all the people in my life I have now, and yeah, to maybe have a bit more education and maybe a bit more farming. So, and yeah, so that's kind of where I'll be in 5 years, and hopefully. And then the other side of it, where the advice is, so for people wanting to be farm vets, is you don't have to be from a farm. You don't have to be a farmer, farmer's son or daughter. You just have to have an interest in agriculture and can see maybe even science. Like, really, the science behind large animal veterinary is immense, and to have that passion, and also just to have go out, get experience, go lambing, go calving, get whatever you can. It doesn't have to be like veterinary, as long as it's just some sort of farming. It would be a big help. And yeah, and just, I suppose, on the online thing, just be true to yourself. I think people used to say, oh, Hazel, like, why are you putting up that you're going shopping? And look, yeah, I know it's not it, but I think it's me, and you just have to be true to yourself. And look, you don't have to put everything online that's going on in your life. And I think as well, if you're going down the showing your profession as a vet or as a farmer, then I think it's just show what your day to day. And yeah, it might be boring to you, but actually someone else might find it really interesting. And I think that's kind of finding the interesting in the boring is probably what I was good at, out TV testing. And I used to have like a hashtag like, oh, seen at the test. And it was, something that I would have picked up and tried to make the best out of maybe a maybe more mundane job. And yeah, kind of consistency as well is a good thing. And yeah, just don't mind the haters, block them.
I agree with that. Yeah, I agree with that. I think, do you know what you said? Like, your friends ask, why do you put up you're going shopping? I think people sometimes, there's a detachment from those Facebook, Instagram celebrities, and like they forget like they're real people.
Yeah.
I think stuff like that's really important. Yeah, no, good tips and good goals for 5 years, I'd say. But thank you very much for that. I've really enjoyed the last hour. Appreciate you taking your time in the practice until 8:30. So that's commitment. That is.
It's not me and podcasts. Monday and Tuesdays are kind of my Vet Space Ireland podcast. So that's I was saying that I must try and get out of my interviewing role and let you interview me, Wallace. So thank you so much, and you did a fantastic job. And I was just keep up the good work. And honestly, it was a pleasure to be on your podcast.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. And it's funny that Hazel said that before we hit record, I was being interviewed. The questions were being thrown at me. But yeah, it's been great to have you on. Appreciate that. Thank you. And we shall keep in touch.
Thanks so much.